are you moving house? Are you moving town? Are you moving country? Moving and getting a new job? Yikes. Yikes. We know all about that.
Yeah, we do.
Sarah Elliston is back on Big Blend Radio's Quality of Life show today, and she's going to talk about her latest article that's up on blendradioandtv.com on how to handle the basic instincts of freeze, flight, or fight when dealing with change such as moving. And, spring is coming. I know some of you don't believe it, but it is. Here in the desert southwest in Tucson, it is. Wildflowers already popping up. And in spring, that's when spring cleaning happens, and a lot of people start doing that move. And so it's a really good time to talk about how to handle the big move and have fun with it, because apparently you can have fun moving. Do you believe that?
Well, I think it's more.
She's laughing.
It's more fun to unpack the boxes than it is to pack them.
Well, sometimes that's a pain too. So anyway, Sarah is the author of the book Lessons from a Difficult Person: How to Deal with People Like Us. You can get on Amazon. You can also go to her website, sarahelliston.com. And when we do move, that's when we do become difficult people. It happens. Especially even kids get all like,
I don't want
to go to a new school. She is a faculty member of the William Glasser Institute and is a workshop leader and trainer. She is certified in values realization, parent effectiveness training, and reality therapy, which I love. I need that. So everyone, again, sarahelliston.com is her website, and she's got a great blog on there, and she's also an expert up on blendradioandtv.com. So welcome back, Sarah. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be back.
Hey, so let's talk about the joy of moving.
Yeah, well, it's change, it's change. Change is tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like what you say in your article is change challenges our sense of control. Yikes, I never thought of it that way.
Well, our habits are the way we sort of take over our universe, our life. It says we know we're going to get up and we get off this side of the bed, and the first thing we do is take a shower, brush our teeth, and when we come out of the bathroom, we're ready to get dressed. And it goes in an order. And if the phone rings in the middle of it, it sort of throws the order off. But it's not as bad as a fire alarm, or a sick child calling out to you, and so suddenly you find yourself, if you have an emergency in the middle of the night, you find yourself in the hospital with your blue jeans pulled on over your bedclothes, your pajamas or whatever, and you feel completely kind of on tilt because you've been focused on something else that's so important. So when something comes to rattle us, when something different pops into our sphere, our brains are designed, to save us from the dinosaurs or whoever. So we have three choices. Our brain will either fight, which is, to stand firm or argue or however that translates, flee, run away, or just freeze and stop. You think of the lizards that just stop and freeze and change color, and then, people walk right by them because we don't see them. So all of us have this in our brain, and just as animals do. But then we have this thinking brain in the front of the brain, at the top of, the head. And hopefully, if you aren't too scattered, you can pop into your thinking brain fairly quickly. And it took me a long time in my life to realize that. I usually responded to change with defiance and arguments and sort of fight. And I was one of these people that if you tried to give me negative feedback or any feedback, I would cry. That was my probably my instinct to flee or or freeze. And I remember being an adult in my 30s and thinking, why can't I hear a performance review without crying? Usually it was a positive review. It was but it's all tied together with the instincts. And what I had to learn was to say, what's going on? You don't need to cry or whatever I was feeling. I can remember sitting in meetings and wanting to argue with whoever was leading the meeting because I felt they were wrong, and telling myself, first I would say it doesn't matter, or he isn't really interested in your opinion. My thinking brain would kick in because as a younger person I would raise my hand and say, you've got that information incorrect. And not really, he didn't care. He just wanted to do his thing, and I would get into trouble. So I learned. Okay, so that's a fight, flight, or freeze. And when we're moving through our life and everything seems to be, we know where things are in the house. We know how it feels to prepare the meals and eat together, and the coats hang up here, and we finally figured out where to put our car keys so they're always there when we look for them and we don't have to keep hunting. You've got your systems pretty much down. And then suddenly you're going to move.
Yeah.
And
start
even
all
if
over
you want
again.
to move, right. But even when you want to, people who've got this nailed are people who are in the military. Their spouses are, if they're living on base and they move every 2 to 5 years from one base to the next, they've got it pretty much organized in terms of how to move and how to get into the new house and how to set up the systems. And,
the systems are key. They are.
Yes,
and,
they are.
And we interviewed a gentleman, Michael Joseph Lyons. He's a, he studies military science, taught it, and was a military brat, and went all over the world. And he wrote a young adult novel called Brat, The Kids of Warriors, and it's a super cool. I love it personally because it's just like the kids. It's like the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew moving countries. It was right after World War II, and it gets into the Cold War. And the mom was like the white glove system. And so for moving, they talk about this system. Like they had rules that no matter where they were, you were always home by 6 o'clock for dinner. It is always served at that time, and that is that. But whatever you do in the day, that's okay. You come back, and you're not allowed to break certain rules. But it gave them this flexibility of kids to run around, explore, but they knew the rules, which kept them from getting into super big trouble. But the mom had this rule, like the white glove thing was, like even when they were going on a ship from America over to Germany, they still had to clean their rooms. Even though people came in to do it, they still had to do it. It was a white coat thing. She would say one word, and that was that. One look, that was that. But it was the systems, and that kept them in some kind of normalcy where your system wasn't based on the place. It was like this internal set of rules that everybody knew, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and it gave them a sense of control over their lives, and that's what the systems do. And when someone else does it for you, or your mom isn't there, and whoever is there says it doesn't matter, then your system is on tilt. And some kids will stay with the system, and others will say, "Oh, goody, I don't have to do this."
Exactly. And when you move, though, you can still take some of those things with you. I think that's how Nancy and I do the tour. We have a list. It's like, okay, here we go. Otherwise, we'll drive each other nuts if we do not have the list. Isn't that right?
That's right.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So what is this? The book is named The Brat?
Always...
What was the book named?
The name is called Brat. Brat, The Kids of Warriors. Yes. I'll send you the link. Yeah, michaeljosephlyons.com. Got a good memory on that. It's a good book. But yeah, the list is important. We've learned that. We travel, we move all the time. We've moved countries, we've moved homes, we've businesses, we've moved during fires, evacuations, and we've learned to have a certain set of rules, Nancy, that you pretty much set up a long time ago.
Well, I had to. Taking you to Africa when you were a year and a half old, it was you will do as I say, you do not argue, you don't question, you do it. And it was just a look. Then she would know.
Absolutely.
And she did have more freedom than most kids. But that's because I knew that she knew. Except for the time she ran away from home.
Yeah, but then I knew, and I scared myself silly because some lady took me into her house, and Nancy drove up at that time.
Yeah.
And they were taking little blonde, blue-eyed kids for slaves over in Kenya at that time. That was not a good thing.
I totally watched her do it. It was really kind of funny.
But anyway, going back to moving, Sarah.
Well, so
Go
what
back.
was your system? What was the system that you had as you moved? You say you have a list?
Well, it's priorities.
Yeah,
you
list.
know, it's like we learned after moving several times that you packed things that you absolutely didn't even know you had, but you still packed them and took them. And then later on, when you grow up on that moving thing, it was, I didn't even remember having this, so I obviously don't need it, so go give it to a thrift shop or give it to somebody who wants it, and quit having all this stuff. So then it would get down to the only thing you really have are the things you really want and need. And then you actually get down to the only things you have is the things you need.
Yeah.
And so there's just not that much.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, it's a lot simpler.
Because we've going on the tour the first time round, we're looking at things that even books that we brought over from South Africa, and a lot of things have been there's certain things that have traveled the world with us. And a lot of times you don't get all the stuff that you ship, especially if you're dealing with Africa. It just doesn't happen. And some of this, and so when you go through that, even South Africa, when we had to leave, it was like an overnight thing, and it was really hard to even get our stuff out. We had to use my grandmother's name because it was just we were in a really scary situation at that point. But we knew these are the treasures, these are not. And those things are valuable. When you go through an evacuation, like a fire evacuation, you know what it is. And you basically, if you have a bunch of stuff, that's when you trip.
Yeah.
And so you don't take, it's kind of like, it's Buddhistic, I think. Buddhistic, is that a new word?
That's a new word.
It's kind of like that, where the tour, we knew, okay, we're going to get a storage unit. We don't need some giant one where things are just going to sit and rot. We need climate control because of Nancy's photography and her paintings. And so, okay, that's what we're going to do, but we're not going to get some huge thing. Why have that, why pay for that? So we went through this big division. The house got divided. So like on the dining room side, all the books we were keeping went there, all the treasures, like the your heart's things that you can't replace go there. And then on the other side was what was donated and paid. By the end of the time, we were going, I remember writing about this on Facebook, and Ruth Milstein, she was talking about this. Why do I have so many pencils? How do we accumulate like a box full of pencils and pens and a junk drawer? How do we accumulate this stuff in our lives? And it was absolutely amazing. And it was heart-wrenching at times. We found things that we didn't even know we had, things that really major treasures that you never look at. So we go through this process. We gave everything away. The Gospel Rescue Mission came, took everything, including the bird bath, and some of the plants. And they help set up homes for homeless people that are getting jobs and getting back on their feet. So they are able to go and use these things. So it was really cool. And then we go on the road. We couldn't even remember what was in our storage unit when we came back off the road for 3 years, and now we're going through this process again. We went ahead to buy things. We had no furniture. We didn't, dishes and everything. However, we did find we had a box in the back of the storage, stupid thinking, that had the main dishes and 2 wine glasses, the most important things for us. and I'd already gone and repurchased all those things because I didn't do the list of what we had because we never expected to come back and right away, But we had this this is your emergency box, but we just didn't think.
Yeah, so that should be the last thing.
And it's interesting now we're going
storage.
We're going
emergency.
Yeah, we're going through the process again, and we're looking at all the things that we treasured. Have we opened them? No. So there you go. You keep things. They're still in boxes in my closet. Yeah. So now when we leave it,
and here are these things that you said they were treasures, but you never looked at them.
Right. Well, the photography that we've been doing for years around all the different countries. 20
slides.
That's different.
And they are being used, but they're not used every single one of them all the time. Yeah. If you follow me, so they are treasures, but we don't get them out and look at them all the time.
All my song lyrics and everything, I don't go and read them again.
So they're personal items in a way, except for the photography will become different videos.
Yeah, we have other projects coming on that, everyone. stay tuned.
Yes.
We have some really cool things coming up with that. But it is interesting about how now we're going through that list again, and it's like, okay, we're already dividing, throwing things away. How did we accumulate all of this stuff all over again? It's not that bad because we've learned, but how do we accumulate that? And I wonder how much of and that's part of that freezing part, because all of a sudden it's like, okay, I need to take a deep breath. Am I going to keep or toss or give away or sell or whatever? So there's those emotions that get in there when you're moving, and you're absolutely right. The fight, flight, or freeze. It's just like animals, and you do have to get into a gear. And what Nancy and I have always found is you just start writing things down, and then you have this to-do list. You have deadlines, and if everybody's on board and everybody is assigned a task, and we already know who does what,
Right.
Nancy and I already know. We don't even have to say it. It's like if who's packing the car, Lisa. It's fucking crappy if anybody else does it.
Right.
So there's certain things.
She has to have it her way, and I really don't care. So go ahead, pack it.
Because I'm driving
she's
it.
probably really good at figuring out the packing. I was that way with in my family when I was married, as we'd get everything out, and then I was the person that put things away, put things in, so that I knew how to get them out, and I knew where to, because we would go in a van and sleep in it and live in it, and that was easier, of course, before our son was born, and then but I know exactly what you're talking about. What's interesting is that I have just chosen to I've hired a woman to come and help me downsize, I think they call it, where I'm going to go through and get rid of all those pencils. And she absolutely tickled me. She said she loves to do this because it is so exciting when someone gets into the flow of it and begins to realize that, they don't need as much as they have, or, here's a treasure that they didn't know they had, or she just gets real excited. I thought it'd be the last job I'd ever want, is to help someone sort through their stuff and what to give away, and I'm not moving. I mean, eventually I'm going to have to move because I'm aging, and so eventually I'm going to probably need to move into a place that is a lot smaller. And so I have been looking around saying, this is artwork I would want to have I would want to be able to see all the time, and this is stuff I don't need, but I haven't actually physically started. And I didn't ask her. I should have asked her how many people sign up and say, yes, I want to do this, and then back out at the last minute. She's certified as a coach because it becomes a process of coaching to help people do this.
I think it helps have someone
downside.
that is not even, especially if it's more than one person and doing it. There becomes like, I want to keep it. No, I want to get rid of it. Like Nancy and I had this with my Salvador Dali paintings, and she just looked at me and she goes, seriously, when you say about what you don't want to see every day and what you do, that was it. She goes, do you know how gross those are on your walls? I can't stand them. It's like interesting to look at in a museum, but get rid of it. She's made me get rid of stuff, and I've made her get rid of stuff, and you have to come at it at this perspective of putting yourself in the other person's shoes, but also having this open mind. And I think when you have someone that's outside of the immediate circle, they come in with this fresh perspective, and it's like, I think it's a really good thing, because I think you need to have these people and processes that pull you out of that same basic zone where otherwise you will freeze and never get it done.
Well, and one of the things is when you ask somebody, well, what is it about that you like, and they go into freeze and they can't answer it, then I'm like, I win.
See?
Well, if it's your daughter, you can say I win, but you wouldn't say that to your client or something. But I think what it reminded me of was when my mother died, and she had downsized into a 4-room apartment in a retirement community, and much of the large pieces of furniture had already been assigned. We knew that when she died which one of us was going to get what, but we had books and smaller pieces of furniture and jewelry. Oh my God, I had no idea she had so much jewelry. And my older sister said, well, we should just all take one piece of jewelry and sell the rest of it and, divide the money. I said, well, wait a minute.
Where?
I mean, she had two big trays full of this jewelry. I said, maybe we could have more than one piece. So we settled on three. But it was interesting to go through and say, okay, I can have three of these now. And because I hardly wear jewelry at all anymore anyway, so I was really taking it because when I wore it, it would remind me of my mother, and so that's why I wanted it. That was the only reason. I mean, otherwise I might not have wanted it at all. So anyway, what was that?
It's interesting how that kind of happens when you have to make a decision whether to keep things and then I think having that lady help you, I think that's interesting because it does go with who you are in life and where you're going in the future. So what I look at, your article and this whole thing about moving and change, it's about getting out of our comfort zone, and it's about actually living life. About change is living to me. That's about living and not being stagnant. And so it kind of pushes you into a different zone with your life. So I think that's why, like when you're saying she's a coach and this discussion, otherwise you can literally freeze and not get out of it. And we do that when we don't want to do a chore. We freeze and go, like, I really don't want to face this. Or you have to tell somebody something you don't want to tell them,
Right,
and you will do that, like, I don't want to.
Or I'll look at something that I could do right now and say, I'll do it tomorrow. Something simple like changing the tablecloth. So I get notes from the universe every day, which is a fun thing on the internet. And here's the one that came today. Sometimes when you're ready for a change and you kind of know it but won't admit it, when it comes, not only are you surprised, but it hurts. Yeah, I know that doesn't help much, but unless you remember the ready part, because there's simply no change that might ever transpire in time and space that happens before you're fully able to use it for your own growth and glory. And it says, love watching you create from the universe.
Wow.
But
that's really cool.
So what the message is, there's no change that might ever transpire in time or space that happens before you're fully able to use it for your own growth and glory. So that's what I'm going to say to myself when I am up to my earlobes and how many sweaters do I have? How many sweaters
but this is confidence.
Use?
Well, and you talk about that in your article, and what synchronicity to get that message today too. When you look at your article and you talk about, remember, once you know the 3 F's, and you can use that when you're moving, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
When you recognize that you're going in that. You remember this is something that it's a reaction, basically, right? That's your reaction.
This is your instinct.
And so
yeah.
You're going into the instinct reaction, and you have control over that. So it's about confidence, because otherwise we're just being like a servant to the instinct,
and not just reacting. Not. What I think we can get. What's the word? We can find ourselves just exploding, or as you said it when we first started this whole conversation, is that it's a time when there's a lot of tension. And if you don't have systems and you haven't been really paying attention to your own emotional reactions, you can find yourself blowing up or having an emotional reaction. And unless your thinking brain doesn't say, "Yoo-hoo, look what you're doing," if you're not paying attention to what your body's doing or your emotions are doing, it can get messy.
Yeah.
Because if you're even if you're freezing, if you just say, "Never mind, I'm going to go take a nap," my reaction is, "Go ahead, take a nap. Naps are good." But we still have to finish this.
That's right. It doesn't make it go away.
Yeah, that's where the deadlines come in.
Yeah,
I think that you always have to have a date on things. Like, you want to do this, it's in anything. If you want to move to a new neighborhood, you need to know, well, what year do I want to do this in? What is my goals to move? Even in life. I mean, like you're saying, okay, I know I'm going to downsize, and it's going to be around this time frame. You're already looking, because then you're already being active in your goal. And if you didn't have like a time zone, or even if it's 5-10 years away, you're not going to start working on it. You'll just wait, and then you're going to freeze again. And then you're going to fight with everyone, because it's like, hey, I'm in a hurry. Move over. Get out of my way.
There's also that living in the state of denial. You know, that freeze to me is when you're in a state of denial. You know, like when a deer crosses the road and it starts and it sees a car and it stops and it looks.
That's when it gets
in a state of denial. Should I go? Should I stay? I don't know what to do. I'll just stand here.
It
freezes. That kind of
yeah.
They just freeze. That's a state of denial based on insecurity.
And flight does that too. Flight is, I think, very tied to that, because flight is like, okay, I'm going to run away from this. You know, you're going to freeze, and then it's almost like the flight is the reaction of the freeze.
Well, the flight actually, in the case of the deer, is a good thing. I mean, it gets out of the way.
Yeah.
So I mean, fight, flight, and freeze are they're instincts that help us, but
in some places,
not as mature necessarily, not in a mature way always. You know, so we need to. It's a matter of knowing it. It's a matter of being able to say, "Oops, look at me," or "What am I feeling?" You know, to be able to ask oneself that. I'm not sure everyone is able to do that.
You know, I think it's interesting, because when you also look at, you know, a family moving, I think this is a very good time for a family to sit down and go, okay, these are our instincts, and having that family conversation for kids, a reminder for the parents, the teens, everybody involved. And then, you know, it's part of that list we were talking about earlier, like make the list. You know, we know divide and conquer. You know, that's what happens when you move. Everybody knows what they're doing, you know, and it's, if we're unpacking the kitchen, Nancy's doing it because you don't want me to do it, because I'll put the, you know, the glass in the oven drawer or something stupid. But you know what I mean? So everybody has their thing, and I think this is where communication, it can actually become a fun experience once everybody's on board. And it is fun. I think moving is fun. There's points of it that become tedious and hard work, but I always get into that mode, like you don't want to empty the car. Like here where we are now, there's the boxes up and down the stairs, and if I start moving the boxes, whether it's up or down, I know to continue doing it, because if I say, oh, I'm going to take a rest now, the chances of me going back to do the rest of the boxes, they're not going to happen. You know what I mean? So there's
yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's almost like
everybody
a family getting together. It should be team. It's a team effort, and should cheer each other on, especially if you're carrying boxes up and downstairs. One needs cheering.
It's like, good for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know cream afterwards. Thank you.
When my parents, I know what I was going to say. You were talking about my having a sort of a vision of, you know, someday moving into a smaller place. My most recent wish, and I've had friends laugh at me and say I couldn't do it, but my most recent thought is to live in a tiny house. My son lives up in New York City, and I don't want to live in New York City, but if I had a tiny house, I could drive it within spitting distance of New York City. So, you know, park it somewhere in northern New York or Connecticut somewhere, and he could take the bus to come see me, or I could take the bus to go see him. It's mostly to see my granddaughter, but if you live in a tiny house, you don't have 5 or 6 or 7 sweaters. You know, you only have 2 or 3.
Exactly. You just
maybe.
have what you need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mentioned it to a friend. I said, I don't know how rational it is for someone my age to live in a tiny house. I don't think I would ever climb up to the lofts that they build. I would have my bedroom on the floor, you know, regular floor. And my friend laughed and said, "You couldn't stay in something that small. You're too expansive a person. You have too many people in your life and so many things that you do, and you wouldn't be able to." And I thought, I wonder if that's me she's talking about, or herself, because I don't perceive myself the way she does. But that's neither here nor there. I just think the concept of, could you live in a tiny house and and what would you take with you? That kind of thing. I'm liking that idea.
That's
I like
cool.
the idea of taking a tiny house and putting it in a park and living there.
Yes.
And then you've got the outdoors. And then when the weather turns and winter's coming, you pick yourself up and you go to Mexico.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I like the moving aspect of it. And there's so many different ways. On Instagram, I follow all these people that have turned vans into their tiny house. They've turned, school buses into their tiny house. And there's all these ways of doing it. And, there's some challenges to it, and to me that's part of the exciting part, and if it gets really bad, then you just get another tiny house and then you connect the two of them, but and it's also very environmentally friendly, that I love the ones in Florida. They're doing these huge, it is, and you don't have to clean so much
that evaporate. I mean, they burn your refuse, and then once a week you go in and pull the little bowl out and dump it outside. I mean, it's just ashes.
Wow,
Isn't that fantastic?
This is interesting.
I'm sure. Which is nothing.
Well, you got to
to
keep us posted on the tiny house idea because Nancy and I are living in a tiny life. With what we do, people expect us to be in a motorhome with going on our Love Your Parks tour. I mean, we're going to be full time in May. We're that's it, and we have literally one suitcase each, a carry bag each, our photography gear, computer gear, and a kitchen box, because we've learned you need a kitchen box, and Priscilla, our sock monkey. And then what happens is everywhere you travel, here comes all the visitor bureau pamphlets and all the tourist brochures and the books, and here's all these things you need. And last time it starts to build up, and that's where it gets to that Buddhism side of whenever you add something, you need to take it out. It's the same thing. If you have a glass of water, a full glass of water, you can't keep adding to the full glass of water. You need to take a sip before you add more. And
Absolutely.
That's the rule we live by. And it really helps because at the end of the day, I'm not carrying everything. We have everything in a RAV4. That's it. That's the road. And
you're in a RAV4.
You get your stuff, that's it. That's how we travel.
Are you sleeping in it or?
Oh, no. Well, we have slept in interesting areas in it because you had to, in rainstorms and rest areas as you're because we've done some really. I've done a couple stints where I thought I could drive from Arizona to Louisiana, and I've done it and achieved it, and I don't recommend anybody doing that.
No,
it's a really not as
not as
smart
quickly
thing
as
to
you tried to do it.
No, you can do it, but you don't do it in one trip without staying in a hotel.
Right.
Don't do it.
It isn't worth it. But I think when the way we live now, like if I had what we have now technology-wise, we wouldn't have all these photos. They would have been scanned and put on a computer. So this time around, and we will be scanning them eventually so that we don't lose the information, but we don't have to have all the boxes of all these things. But they're valuable because they're, some are 20, 30, 40 years old in different countries, and look what it looked like then, and look what it looks like now.
So where are you going,
stuff.
and what's the plan?
Now that's really funny.
Yeah.
No.
We get the map out and we throw darts.
I know. I'd love it if it worked that way. So no, what we're doing, we leave here in May and maybe a little earlier, and we start in Yuma, Arizona. The historic Coronado Motor Hotel is our tour headquarters, so we have a place to land and get our work done when things get too hectic, and make sure we don't carry brochures in the car forever, and that we go and type the things up that we need to and put them up. And so we start there, and we go this year, and we go to Greeley, Colorado, and we are going to Springfield, Kentucky. We are going to Natchitoches, Louisiana, and we're working on 3 different historic trails, 4 actually. The Pony Express, the Juan Bautista de Anza National Historic Trail, and the Pony Express and California Trail are actually connected, so there's 2. The Butterfield Overland Mail Route, and we're going to do part of Old Highway 80, obviously a little bit of Route 66, but also the El Camino de Real de Tejas.
Los Tejas.
El Camino Real de los Tejas,
Yes.
which is goes from Mexico. We're not doing the Mexico portion up through Texas, up through to Louisiana. So we're doing those and the Natchez Trace Park. So there's Anyway, Tennessee,
she keeps adding.
Smoky Mountains. So that's kind of what the general route is, and hashing it down to get everything on board and everybody on board. That's what's happening now. We're working on that now. So
what's Springville, Kentucky?
Springfield, Kentucky. It's in the center of Kentucky. It is the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln's family. And so we're going there. We've been covering it for a while, and it's on the Transcontinental Bike Trail. It is part of the Holy Land Tour of family history-wise, it's very, very rich. It's on the Bourbon Trail. It's
there you go.
It's on the Barn Quilt Tour trail. It's like the crossroads, and it's also surrounded by all kinds of parks. So we're documenting every single park, whether it's a national park, a state park, a community park. Every single park that we can find, we'll be documenting. So that's the plan. Yeah, and gathering stories as we travel.
Exactly.
So very interesting.
Are you going to tell people when you're going places? Because I'm not that far from central Kentucky.
I know. We'll come and see you. Yeah, we'll let everybody know on nationalparktraveling.com, where people can go to loveyourparkstour.com, and we'll be updating our itinerary as soon as we have some solid things, and everyone gets our newsletter. We'll get it on social media. We'll see it. So, that's the whole plan.
We know one thing is that you will not have a problem packing and moving.
No, we won't.
No.
We might. We have to watch. We might have the, not the freeze part, not the flight, well, because we'll be constantly flying, but the fighting could happen because we could bicker on road directions and getting lost. That's where that could happen. That would be the only thing. But you have to have. I think that's the thing too. Just touching on the moving part is people recognizing that, so they do not have big fights. I mean, because you could get to this point of, I'm not throwing it in the box, I'm just throwing it at you.
Yeah. Right. We even have we have a system, and I know it's going to take a couple weeks to fall back into our travel systems because we've been here instead. We check each other's rooms before we leave to make sure we never leave anything behind. And you get so used to your suitcase. And when you first start, you say, okay, I'm going to take everything out of my suitcase. I'm going to hang it all up really, really nice. Because you have a closet, you have a bathroom, and you have your bed, and you have a chest of drawers. I'm going to take all my stuff, and I'm going to pretend I'm at home. And you put in all your undies and all that in the drawers in the room, and then about a week later you go, okay, I'm leaving it in the suitcase. I'm pulling what I want. I'm going to hang up 3 days' worth of clothes. And then when you leave, you never use a chest of drawers because you will leave something in. So now we have to back each other up and check each other's rooms because you do it with new eyes.
And you have a basic wardrobe of jeans and T-shirts and hiking boots, and you have a basic wardrobe. You don't take everything under the sun. And not only do you check rooms, you check when you do hotel laundry or have to go to a laundromat. Because I've left knickers across the country.
It's her flagship.
Just saying, it's true.
Oh, funny.
Anyway, but I love this topic of fight, flight, or freeze, and understanding that, because then people can become more aware and have fun with a move, because it's exciting. What are you going to do with the garden? What are you going to do in the kitchen that's different? So I think it's an exciting time. It's tedious work, but it's exciting. So I think this is a really good topic, Sarah.
You can really stress yourself out for no reason.
Yeah.
Stress yourself out, yes. And remember, control is not a dirty word. I mean, it's fair to say, okay, why am I feeling out of control here? What's going on? Because that's really why the instinct kicks in.
I think if you ask yourself that, you can answer it, and then you'll calm down.
Exactly.
Totally.
Exactly.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was saying. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
The thing is that this whole this concept that we've been talking about, the fight, fright, or freeze, flight or freeze, if you're working in an office, or a school, or whatever for the federal government.
Oui.
And you're you're working without getting
really.
paid. I mean, the same kind of concept is appropriate to notice that that you don't have control. You're being called back to work and you're not getting paid, and there's not a bloody thing you can do about it.
Exactly.
And so getting angry or being rude, and I think one of the remarkable things about this work shutdown is that the employees that are being asked to work who aren't getting paid are not being rude and unpleasant to the customers. They're being just as polite and well-behaved, if you will. And I think that's remarkable because I think it can be
incredible.
Pretty annoying. Yeah.
There's a lot of people cleaning parks that shouldn't be, cleaning up human waste, and I just there's just so much good that's out there. There's negative, obviously, and the whole thing is negative. I don't even get started because that would be like a 10-hour show, and I still wouldn't even be at the beginning. And to me, you see humanity stepping up in places, and that's always good to remember when things are not pleasant that you can change it around, and it is about a different attitude, And I think that's, again, going back to, the fight, freeze, or flight. Taking action is always better than not taking action. Positive action is what I mean,
Exactly.
And so I think that's, Joan Baez, one of my favorite quotes in the world is that she said is, action is the antidote to despair. It's my favorite quote. Because otherwise you get into that freeze part, and despair comes from freeze. People can go into depression over change.
Absolutely.
And it is painful, but if you have a plan and start working it, it is not painful. You'll go through it quicker, let's put it that way. It's better to run and jump through the ring of fire than dance around it and keep scorching yourself or sitting on it.
Yes, I think you pretty much said it all right there.
I know.
Roast buns.
I know, Sarah. It's always so good to chat with you here on Big Blend Radio. And everyone, again, if you don't want to be a difficult person when you move, read Sarah's article on blendradioandtv.com. It'll also be featured in the spring issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. And you can get that at blendradioandtv.com. Her articles are up there, but also the best thing is to go get her book, Lessons from a Difficult Person, How to Deal with People Like Us, of course, on Amazon and BNN and all those places, and connect with Sarah on her website, sarahelliston.com. And we always love to play music for Sarah. And, Sarah, your song today is by Wally Lauder. Wally, it's WALLYLAWDER. Wally Lauder. He is based here in Tucson, Arizona. We met him on our tour in Silver City, New Mexico, and he still goes back and forth. And they're within 2.5 hours from each other, the two towns or cities. Anyway, this song is called "Leaving Town." And it's about a loved one leaving town, because when people move, it changes a dynamic for people that you're leaving as you go, and that's always interesting to deal with, having moved many times. And some people never want to talk to you again, and some people cheer you on, and you stay friends for the rest of your life. And so there's always that balance too, just saying. So here it is, "Leaving Town." Thanks so much, Sarah.
Oh, you're welcome. I had a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you in Ohio. Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you're leaving town. I won't see you around. You're moving on to brighter things, my friend. It's not so many miles, but I will miss your smile. You'll forget about this song in a while. So what can I give you? that never will pass. May the rains come to soothe you. May the winds uplift you. May the earth support you to shine with the sun. So what can I give you that always will last? What can I give you that never will pass? May the rains come to soothe you. May the winds uplift you. May the earth support you to shine with the sun. I hear you're leaving town. It's not so many miles. You'll forget about this song